Welcome everybody to workshop 2 of the Lead2Launch or module 2 of the Lead2Launch workshop. So just checking everything here, we're going live over here on Facebook group, we're live on the Facebook page, Facebook, gone on LinkedIn as well. So I think we're firing up over on YouTube as well. So welcome everybody. Delighted to have you all here and very much looking forward to today's workshop. So, just like to say, boy, am I excited about this. At this stage, I've probably done just short of 60 launches, so full-on product launches, but I'm having probably the most fun ever on this launch. So delighted to have you along. So today, well, if you would like a way to create unlimited lead generation budget and to essentially get free leads from Facebook ads, but not just any leads. Leads who are pumped, primed, and ready and waiting to jump on your next offer. Then stick with me for the second part in the Lead2Launch workshop. So today I'm going to map out one of the most powerful lead gen campaigns that you can build, which will take, which basically you can take and implement in your online business straight away for almost instant results. So best of all, this is a very, very simple 4-step funnel, but don't let the simplicity in any way underline how powerful it is. For the most part, you can probably recycle content that you've already created, or if you're starting from scratch, you can pretty much put together this content in less than a week. Honestly, it's the thought process which is actually more important than the volume of content or how. It's how you hit the triggers in each one of the steps, and that's what I'm really going to share with you today. Now, you may be an online entrepreneur who's new to the digital world, who's looking to get your first leads, to attract and build your initial email list for your first launch, or you could be a course creator, a membership site owner who has the foundations in place and is now looking to build a predictable and dependable lead generation process that ensures your next launch is your big breakthrough. That launch that really puts you and your business on the map. Or you could already have a successful online business and you want to take that to the next level. So in order to do that, you need to build a scalable lead generation process that produces a steady stream of perfect fit clients at scale. Or maybe even a lead generation process that creates an unlimited marketing budget through producing cost neutral or free leads from paid traffic. And that's exactly what we are here to do today. So if any of these sound true for you, then you're very welcome back to the Lead2Launch workshop. Having worked with thousands of entrepreneurs to launch and scale both online and offline businesses, one of the biggest challenges that I've seen people struggle with is the development of a dependable, scalable lead generation process that produces leads at an appropriate cost and then go on to convert later when an offer is made. So, new leads are the absolute lifeblood of any business. And it's even more essential for an online business. So even if you've successfully launched in the past and you've had an offer that converts, you can't rely on promoting the same offer over and over to the same list. Trust me, as I said, I delivered close to 60 full-on product launches over the years, and I've seen the impact of list burnout, and it's not pretty. So you have to have a proven process to add new leads to your email list month after month, year after year. And that's one of the most important things. A lot of people in the launch world, they kind of, they nearly look in their business as seasons, and they look at, okay, well, we're going into launch, or promotion period now, and they get all focused on list development, but then they could forget about it for almost 10 months of the year. And what I would like to do is maybe suggest a system where, no, you do your lead generation year round. So I really first encountered this when building my first business. That business started out as a traditional consulting and training firm, and over time we transitioned to an online business model. So when we made the transition to digital, one of the first things that became evident was how quickly list decay sets in. And it wasn't until we really doubled down on our list building that we saw a consistent uptake in our launch results. And eventually we went on to produce $1.5 million in annual recurring revenue from, digital products and memberships, with almost $3 million in total revenue. So, this is a pattern I see again and again now with my clients. The clients with the best launches have an established process for generating new high quality leads. But make no mistake about it, quantity is not the biggest factor. Quality is also a focus. And for an online business, the measure of quality is the likelihood that a lead will convert for a primary offer later down the road. And I really saw this when I took on, it was actually 2 Facebook ad clients that I took on around the same time. This was a good while back, and they were both targeting a webinar launch. So one had a list of more than triple the size of the other, but the one with the smaller list had been consistently generating high quality leads over time, whereas the other one hadn't. It was, kind of a list that was old, it was stale, they weren't engaging with it, they weren't adding new blood into the actual list. And it was remarkable. So with one, basically they had, proven ads, proven lead generation process. We flipped on the ads, and within a short period of time, we were able to run, a full webinar promotion. We got leads at a cheap rate. We got, a high volume of lead registrations from the actual list that then went on to hit their targets in terms of their webinar, in terms of sales from the webinar. The other client, it was tough work. So they had nothing in place. We had to put everything in place from start, and it was just the time it took to refine and get down. Whereas we got a result in the first webinar with the smaller list. The bigger list, it took us 5, 6, 7 webinars really before we got up and running. So this is something that is hugely important to your business, and it's something the sooner you start focusing on it, and the sooner you start putting in, kind of year-round lead generation process, the easier this will be. And this is why I love this model so much. So today I'm going to share with you the mini front-end Liquidator. But before I do, and just because it's so important, I want to take a second to recap what we spoke about yesterday. So yesterday was in module 1 of the Lead2Launch workshop. We looked at your value ascension roadmap. You see, you have to have a plan for your perfect fit client. You need to know the steps that they need to take all the way from where they are today to the ultimate transformation that is possible for them. The value ascension roadmap lays out step-by-step journey that your perfect fit clients will take. And along the way, you lay out your stages or milestones. These are the supports that you provide to assist your clients achieve the transformation. So all makes sense, right? But there are some big distinctions that really make your value ascension roadmap powerful. So at each level of your value ascension roadmap contains an offer. As the name suggests, these offers increase in value as your perfect fit clients move up along the roadmap. And the value is double-sided. So there's an increase in value delivered and received by your client, as well as an increase in value to you in the form of increased revenue and profitability. But not just that. On each level of the roadmap, in addition to delivering value, you're priming and preparing your perfect fit client to step to the next level of the roadmap. In other words, you give them everything they need, not just so that they will say yes to the next step on the roadmap, but that in doing so is the logical next step for them. And this is hugely, hugely important. This is the part that so many people miss. You always have to have a next step for your perfect fit client to take. It has to be small, it has to be enticing, and it has to be logical for them to do so. Because there's no point in generating leads and either not having a next step for them to take or asking them to leap in an entirely different direction, which is probably the single biggest problem that I've seen with, kind of most people's lead generation strategies. So they might go out and create, a lead magnet. And that lead magnet, so there was one person I worked with recently, and they had a lead magnet. And don't get me wrong, the lead magnet was really, really good. So it was a brilliant lead magnet. It aligned with what, kind of their business. But what it didn't align with was the next step. So you had all these people who opted in for this lead magnet, which had kind of one promise, one transformation, which brought the leads in this direction. But then the next offer was going in this direction. And that's why your value ascension roadmap starts with your free front-end content. So I advise breaking your business down into 5 plus or minus 2 content areas. So basically you're looking at 3 to 7 content areas. And I think I've never yet to meet a business where we haven't been able to break it down into these areas. And you define those areas and you stick to it. So these are the areas that you talk about on a regular basis. And further to that, these are the areas which you talk about throughout your offers and throughout your level. So it might go from your free front-end content, your lead magnets, your mini products, into your overall course, your signature course, or into your membership. But each one of these areas, they'll have corresponding lead magnets. Maybe not initially, you won't have it for each of the areas, but that's a possible target over time. And then each lead magnet will lead people to a mini front-end product. And in turn, the mini front-end product leads people to your signature program or your membership. So, today, and there's a huge amount kind of, up in the model from your signature product and your membership and how to structure those in such a way that you get the greatest results for your clients and that you help them move forward. But for today, and specifically for this workshop, because we don't have all that long together, I'm going to focus on the strategy for your mini front-end product. So we're going to explore a simple front-end funnel that you can use to liquidate the cost of your lead generation campaign. And as the popularity of online advertising and the ease with which people can launch ad campaigns increases, the cost per lead on ad platforms, including Facebook, are getting more expensive. Now, just to dispel a quick myth, Facebook isn't randomly just pushing up its prices. Or any of these are not randomly pushing up their prices. It's an auction-based system. Facebook actively want to give you the lowest cost possible so that you will continue to advertise with them. But the challenge they're facing is they've got much more people who are willing now to spend much more money to advertise on the platform. And as a result, they've only got limited real estate that they can advertise on. It's an auction system. So basically what you're doing is you're bidding on placing adverts in front of people or in front of groups of people. And this is why normally when there's a new kind of advertising format is released on any of the platforms, it's normally why it's an awful lot cheaper. And it's cheaper because there's not as many people who are willing to place ads there. And this is also the reason, and just one thing, because we're talking a lot about Facebook here, but I'm actually working on building a YouTube ad course for the Lead2Launch membership, because YouTube ads there's huge value in YouTube ads. Now, as they become more popular and people figure them out, obviously that'll increase again, but by then there'll be a new platform. So I know we're talking a lot about Facebook, and I know also that there's some people out there who are not huge fans of Facebook, and that is fine. This process and this system works no matter where you're driving traffic from. But what it does do is it places a premium not just on the quality of your ad and your campaign, but also how you monetize your leads once you've collected them. And today I'm going to show you the most elegant and simple process by which you can recover the full or close to full cost of your ad spend quickly. While also, and this is one of the key parts of it, optimizing your leads and priming them for your launches and your key promotions down the line, because that's the most important thing. You see, and this is going to be controversial, but the product launch, the PLF model, is almost incompatible with Facebook ads. So especially for people starting out or those who don't have a big ad budget, proven copy or proven offer. And just before everybody, kind of gangs up on me, yes, all the big name launchers use Facebook ads to scale their launches. But the fact is most of them didn't build the majority of their list or their initial success on JV partners. They built it on JV partners rather than with ads. And there's two massive problems with Facebook ads and launches. First off, it's nearly impossible to optimize and scale your ad campaigns without proven creative anyway, for opt-in to your pre-launch in an appropriate time frame. Opt-ins for your launch shouldn't really start any more than 2 weeks before your pre-launch. And this doesn't give you much time to scale your campaign up. Secondly, there is a second option that a lot of people go with, and that's the one where you list build through, a lead magnet in advance of the launch. And, this is perfectly acceptable model. However, the challenge is the time frame between opt-in and the offer being placed in front of your lead. So you might be lead generating year round, but the RFM model tells us that the people who are most likely to buy are the ones that interacted with us most or recently, most F frequently, and most M who have spent the most. So the people who are most likely to buy for you are the people who have interacted or the people who've purchased with you most recently, the people who purchase most frequently, and the people who have spent the most. Now, I know that's looking at it from a spend perspective, but it's also true of people who have joined your list. So recency is a big, big issue. This means that somebody could be waiting, 3 to 6 months between launching, or 3 to 6 months between getting on your list and an offer being made to them. And this is a big, big problem because you're investing in leads for a long period of time without any feedback on the likelihood of buying. And even if the audience you are targeting in Facebook remains constant, that doesn't mean that the leads will always perform the same. So Facebook targets audiences within audiences. And if your campaign is optimized for opt-in to a lead magnet, well, that's exactly the people that Facebook will send to you, not the ones who will be most likely to register for your product. So you need to be careful. And that's exactly where the mini front-end liquidator comes in. It allows you to get instant feedback on whether your leads are likely to convert in the future. And even if they don't, well, you've covered the cost of your advertising to attract them, so you won't be out of pocket. And at that stage, it's a numbers game and refinement. So net, this makes real sense. But not just that. If you've diligently applied the principles of the value ascension model to your funnel, then when people consume your lead magnet and your mini front-end product, you will have helped them make progress and you will have created the demand for more. Demand that you will meet when you next make an offer to them for your signature product or your membership. So, what I'd like to do now is just jump into the actual model and take a look at the key components of the mini front-end liquidator. Just before I do, I'm just going to check on here and just check in with everybody. So I see we've got some comments over here from the Facebook group. Hi everybody, how you doing? Thanks a million. Thanks a million. Anyone else over here on LinkedIn? Okay, we're all good there. And any comments in here on LinkedIn? Okay, awesome. So that is great. So everything all okay. We have, everything is all okay. So what I'd like to do now is I'd just like to jump into, and if you do, by the way, if you are out there and if you are looking at this, please do drop me a comment. I am keeping an eye on them here. And before we wrap up, if you do have any comments or anything, drop them in there and look at it. I'd love to answer them. So I'm live right here, right now. So if you have any questions about launching, about lead generation, please do pop them in the comments wherever you're looking at it, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or anywhere else. So let's hop over here to PowerPoint. So again, not the biggest fan of PowerPoint in the world, but it serves its purpose for today, especially when we're trying to look at some more complicated models. So this is your mini front-end liquidator funnel. And what I'd like to do is first kind of give you an overview of the funnel and its key components, and then we'll go back and we'll probably run through in a little bit more detail. So we're going to start off on, if you like, level 1. And level 1 is your lead magnet. So this is really where we start. Now there's two elements here. We've got the lead magnet and we've got the opt-in page. So, it's test to get this right. So, you need to test, first of all, the concept for the lead magnet. You need to test the triggers. You need to test the appeal. Now, one of the things that you can do, and we talk a lot, from Facebook as a lead generation tool, but also remember that Facebook is a very, very good way to get instant feedback on things that resonate with your audience, as long as you're targeting the right audience. So let's say if you've got a lead magnet and you could test three or four different headings in ads and see which gets the most engagement, see which gets the most click-throughs. Great story on this one. It was actually, so we've probably all heard of the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Well, believe it or not, the 4-Hour Workweek, the reason why that book was so popular was not the content of the books itself. There were thousands of books about outsourcing, which essentially is what that book is. So there were thousands of books about that out there. But when Tim was starting out, he did a rather interesting experiment. Now, he used Google AdWords, but he actually tested an entire suite of different names. And through Google AdWords, and by seeing how people reacted, what they clicked on. So he just set up a basic opt-in page, a basic landing page, an ad that just had the headline, different headlines, and it went through. And he picked the 4-Hour Workweek was the one that resonated best with people. And he then went on to have a global best-selling book about essentially outsourcing. So you can start testing, your lead magnet before you even go and offer it to the public through an opt-in page. And that's really, you want to get your proof of concept that the lead magnet will convert first. So, another way you could do this is on social. So you could send out before you're setting up your campaign, because for this to work, you have to have a lead magnet that's going to attract people to opt in. So the second element, is your traffic. So I'm just going to talk about two elements of traffic here. The first one is Facebook ads, and the second is SEO. Now, I am a huge SEO fan. I believe massively in content creation in SEO, but there are two very, very different beasts, two very different objectives. Facebook ads is going to give you a quick hit, and you're going to pay in the short term for leads. But the thing is, you can have instant response. SEO is a longer term investment. Now, as ad costs rise, SEO is going to start coming back in. And even if you look at, so most people think SEO in terms of blogs, but you also have to think SEO in terms of what's the second biggest search engine in the world. Well, the second biggest search engine in the world is YouTube. So I'm another huge fan of video. Video can bring you a long way with your lead generation strategies. So even though I'm talking here about Facebook ads, I also want to bring in SEO. There's some very popular kind of pillar posts. There's some very popular content. So what's a pillar post? Well, a pillar post is a big meaty post. They're useful, they're actionable, they're well written, they're engaging, they're filled with relevant images, audio, video files to support the points that you're making in your text. Now, one great example of this is the Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing by digitalmarketer.com. So, the guys over at Digital Marketer, they released, and this might sound absolutely insane, but they essentially released an 80,000 word blog post. 80,000 word blog post. But they are picking up they're picking up hundreds of leads a week through this blog post because it ranks so well from an SEO perspective. So what they did is they took the blog post, they had a kind of an initial post which is an overview, a summary of everything, and then everything links through to that. So from there, I think there's 8 parts, or no, sorry, there's more. I think there's either 8 or 10 sections to the post. Each one of those are their own blog post, and they link internally to the other sections of the blog post and to the pillar page. And just to give you another example, so I'm just in the process of publishing an 18,000 word blog post on profitable Facebook ad campaigns. Now, I didn't sit down to write an 18,000 word blog post. Yeah, it's tough. I would in no way even, consider doing that. But what I did was I set out to write 6 blogs of 3,000 words each. And it's an awful lot easier. And in fact, I didn't even start there. I began with a 2,000 word post. And from that, I developed 6 sections. And then I recorded a video for each one of the sections, which was subsequently turned into a blog post. Now that for me is, I'm going to turn that into a lead generation strategy. I'm going to have my organic traffic and I'm going to do the exact same map. I laid out yesterday, what my kind of value ascension roadmap coming through on one specific content topic. So I picked Facebook ads. So I have my, organic traffic. I'll have Facebook ads going to the lead magnet for, I have a Facebook ad creation template. So as in a copy creation template. And then I also have a guide on, some winning ad formulas. And both of those lead into a mini product, which is set up your ad account and your business manager correctly, have your pixel all right, get all the basics right so that your account is fully authorized. And then that will then upsell into a mini product on advanced Facebook ad strategies, which in turn will lead into the Lead2Launch membership. So all to say that the traffic isn't just Facebook ads, but what I'm going to do in later on in this presentation is do a deep dive on Facebook ads, because I know that's what most people are really, really interested in. How do I get my Facebook ads up and running? So we have our organic, we have our Facebook ads, and then we have our mini front end product. So our mini front end product then is, it's going to be something that, and the mindset here and how you think about this is massively, massively important as to the success of your mini front end product. So it has to extend the value delivered in the lead magnet. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, it has to help people achieve the same results faster, help people achieve greater results easier, or if your lead magnet is a checklist, then your mini front-end product could be a video tutorial on how to implement a checklist. If your lead magnet is a guide, your mini front-end product could be a checklist or an implementation plan. If your lead magnet is a beginner's guide, your mini front-end product could be advanced strategies. So the format isn't as important as it drives people forward. It gets them a result and it moves them closer to being in a position to say yes to the offer for your core product. So we're going to start out here with a core offer of $7 or $27 or $47. We're normally looking at kind of a lower level. It's very hard, if not impossible, to make Facebook ads and to cover the cost of Facebook ads when you have a single offer of something like $27. However, if you have an offer of $27 or $47 with an upsell to $97, that's when you can start getting the order. That's when you can start covering the costs of your leads and producing this infinite leads for free. So that's your mini front end product. And then the next phase is you're going to go into an upsell. Now, your upsell is, there's two ways. Either people are going to upsell, either people are going to accept your upsell or people are going to refuse your upsell. And you need to be ready for both. Now, what I would say to you is, initially, you don't have to put an upsell in place. So, there are things here like you could do an order bump in the original product, and then you can do an upsell. You could have multiple upsells, downsells, and obviously the more upsells, downsells you put in, the more likelihood you're going to cash flow positive on this campaign. But I don't want to confuse people or think this too complicated. I want to keep this simple. So I'm just going to leave that one there, and we will move on to the next phase, which is, phase 4 is the engagement. So if you have your mini front end product, people are going to either, kind of upsell. They're going to accept it and move to a thank you page, or they're not going to accept it and move to a thank you page. We're then going to add those people into our email platform. And from there, we're going to put people into an engagement sequence. So the engagement sequence is, and this is an area where I see so many people fall down. This is possibly one of the most important elements of your funnel. And most people jump in here and they start talking about themselves and why they're great. And this is such a huge mistake. think about the value ascension roadmap. Think about how I laid out, the value ascension roadmap, and how we thought through helping your perfect fit client move through their levels. They're on a journey, and the ultimate destination that you want to help them get to. They have just given you some vital clues as to where they are on their journey. Put yourself into their shoes. Imagine what life is like for them. Imagine the diary entry for a day of a day in the life of. Experience their struggles. Celebrate their wins. Connect with their dreams and ambitions. And then figure out what the next step for them is. The job of your engagement sequence is to keep them moving forward and to keep the momentum from the lead magnet and the mini front end product going. No one has ever turned down an offer because they made too much progress from something they previously purchased from you. So, you really need to focus on this section. From here, then we go into our launch sequence. Now, even though I don't count this as a phase in the mini front end offer, your launch for your signature product or membership site is the final piece of the puzzle. If the mini front end product has done its job, you now have free lead who's pumped, primed, and waiting to register for one of your primary promotions. All you have to do is put a promotion in front of them. And I think it's essential that you get to a quarterly promotion or a launch cadence. Now, this doesn't always mean 4 big launches a year. I personally think the best model is 2 primary promotions and 2 secondary promotions. This is where you perhaps mix in a secondary promotion like a challenge or a virtual event. 6 months and definitely a year is far too long to leave your list without an offer. They will lose interest, you lose attention, and no matter how good your weekly engagement content, you're going to lose revenue. So don't underestimate the power of that, because really, you've got your free leads, but now you need to revenue optimize on them. Okay, so let's look in some detail some of the critical success factors for each of the primary phases of the mini front end liquidator funnel. So Facebook ads. As I said, I was going to do a deep dive on Facebook ads. Well, let's start with the basics. First thing you need to do is get your pixel and your audience set up. And you want to identify the stages of your funnel before you start. You know what? I was astonished. I got somebody was in a was in a bit of a quandary with their Facebook ads. It wasn't a setup that I had done. I wasn't running the campaign, but they asked me to look for them. They were, they badly felt that things were not going well on their Facebook ads. So I jumped into the account and I was looking. The person who set up the ads, and this was a Facebook expert, let's put it that way, they had not set up audiences for each of the pages and each of the steps in the funnel. Now, it's hugely important that you do this up front before your campaign ever starts. When my friends said it to them, they said, oh, well, we need to have an audience of 1,000 people before we can create retargeting audience or anything else. And my argument was, yes, that may be, now, I will come back to that in 1 second, that may be the case, but if you don't start building the audience, well, you're never going to get to the 1,000. So you need to start doing this first. And you need to also remember, as you move through your funnel, you're going to have, lead magnet. You start optimizing your ads from the front of the funnel to the back. So that means that, you're going to optimize first maybe just for page visits. So you're, on your lead magnet, you just want people getting to the page so that Facebook can understand, well, who likes the page, who doesn't. And you will have your goals set up, that the opt-in goals set up so that Facebook knows who's hitting the opt-in. But then after a while, you might optimize for further down the funnel, which means you optimize for visits to the thank you page, i.e. a conversion ad. So once you have then that optimized, when you get into your mini front-end product, now you want to optimize for people who go and people who purchase the upsell or mini front-end product. So now that'll be further down the funnel. So you have to think in terms of stages. The second thing that we want to look at here is your campaign strategy. And again, this is probably the next big mistake that people make. You know, there's a great, I think it was Ryan Dice who came up with this story, and he talked about, you know, imagine if you're in a bar and you see somebody that you might really, really like. Could you imagine walking up to them and asking them to marry you? No, that's probably not going to work out very well. However, if you walked up to them and maybe asked them what their name was, a bit of small talk, maybe the first ask could be, you know, a first date, maybe a coffee. And people continuously make this mistake with their Facebook ads. They ask for marriage on first date or first encounter. You need to think of your ads as a funnel. And really your funnel or your campaign should have 3 levels. That's top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. So if we look at that in a little bit more detail, there we go. So if we look at that in a little bit more detail, we've got our top of funnel ads, we have middle of funnel, we have bottom of funnel, and then we have, you know, our engage and elevate level. And the job of your ads is to move people down through the funnel. So let's look at, you know, kind of how that works out practically in a campaign. So we've got our initial audience, and yes, you're always going to start with, you know, your cold audiences. But the fact is, it's very, very hard to get cold audiences to convert. It's one of the hardest things possible to do. You want to build retargeting audiences all the way through the funnel. Now, I know that a lot of people say, oh, iOS has ruined retargeting ads. They haven't. If you start out with the right strategy, and if you set up your campaign properly, retargeting still works. Retargeting still works. So you start off with your initial audience, and yes, you're going to have to start with a cold audience. But the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to move them, and we're going to start off with video ads. So these are going to be short ads, roughly probably somewhere in the region of 45 to 60 seconds. I tend to find it very hard to say anything in 60 seconds. So it normally gets to 60 seconds with me. If you could do a 30-second ad, it would be awesome. You just have to really refine down your, you know, what your key point is. But here's the thing: if you start off, maybe if you were starting to, you know, if you start to do one ad, it's hard to get everything pushed into to a tight timelines. But if you start off with 4, 5, 6 here, really one of the things that you need to think about is where's your Facebook audience in terms of their awareness? So are they problem aware? Are they solution aware? Are they your solution aware? You know, what phase are they at? So this is Eugene Schwartz came up with this kind of continuum where there's problem unaware, problem aware, solution aware, your solution aware, and most aware. So think about your audience. Where are they on this, you know, continuum? So people who are unaware of the problem, that's going to be a hard sell, and you're going to have to work with them harder. So you have to move up along, you know, kind of the continuum until they're ready to purchase. People who are problem aware, well, they might be a little bit easier to do, but you still have to educate them as to what the solution to their problem is. People who are solution aware, you have to educate them to what your solution is. So, you know, you can look at these ads, and I've drawn it out here where, you know, each of the ads is targeted at the initial audience. However, one way that you could do it is that you could, what's the purpose? I'm getting ahead of myself here. So you've got your top of funnel video ad 1, top of funnel video ad 2, top of funnel video ad 3. And what they do is, based on the people who look and interact at those videos, we're going to develop another audience. And this is your middle of funnel retargeting audience. These are the people who've watched a certain portion of the video. Now, ideally, if you're doing your top of funnel ads, yes, probably initially you're going to be targeting at a lower level, but realistically you want to be targeting people who've watched over 75% of the video. So now that mightn't seem like very much, But at 75% of a 60-second video is like an eternity in social media. So what you're doing is each video you're sending it out to an initial audience, and the best thing about this strategy is, first of all, video views are extremely cheap. You can get video views anywhere from 1 cent or less all the way up to 6-7 cents. So there is that range there, but still they're extremely cheap. Based on the video views, you can then create secondary audiences. So I would always start off with, there's the basic 3-second views, then there's 10 seconds, there's 50%, 75%. So I would create audiences at different levels, because earlier in your campaign you're probably going to be retargeting people who've only watched maybe 10-15 seconds of the video. But think about it. If somebody has watched 10 to 15 seconds of your video and then left, it means that they're probably not best disposed to your message. Whereas people who've watched 75% of the video are much better disposed to your message, to what you're talking about. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our middle of funnel audience, and then we're going to start retargeting our middle of funnel ads at that. So they could be video ads, they could be text ads, you can have a combination here of ads. Another huge mistake that I see people make is they start off with one Facebook ad. And that's really not a good strategy. You want to start off with multiple ads, multiple different formats, kind of multiple different medium and creatives in it. So we are now targeting, these ads are driving people to the opt-in page. So this is where we're going to start this is where we're going to start generating leads and hopefully generating sales. But we're not done yet from a Facebook ads perspective, because now what we've done is we've also identified our bottom of funnel retargeting audience. So these are the people who have gone in, they've registered for a lead magnet, either they've said yes to the upsell, or they've said no. Those two people would be slightly different retargeting groups. So I would retarget different ads at both of them, reminding them. So the people who purchased, the people who are purchased the initial product, maybe you are targeting them with Facebook ads for the upsell. Whereas the people who declined the offer, maybe you're targeting at them for the original product, but just taking a different angle. So that is how we would lay out an ad campaign, and that's our ad strategy. So we've got our top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel retargeting audience. So if that's our campaign strategy, well, let's look at the purpose of some of the key ad components. And really you can break this down, and I think one of the things that people need to get is get a firmer grip when it comes to Facebook ads. Get a really firm grip on what is the purpose of each component. So when you look at, what's the first thing that people see? The first thing that people see is the image. So that's it. When they're scrolling through their Facebook feed, they will see the image is what will capture their attention. So your image has to stop them. It has to in some way be a pattern interrupt. They have to see something that stops them. Now, technically, and this is through my own testing and a lot of other people, what they found is that native images will respond or will produce better results than graphically designed. So native images are, kind of photographs that they would see from a friend. So that means that a lot of the graphically designed, kind of ad cards don't work as well. However, I always start off and test both initially. The next thing, once somebody sees the image, the next thing they're going to look to is the headline of the ad. So this is where your headline is one of the most important things. It has to pattern interrupt, it has to draw them in. And really between the headline and the next bit that they read is the first two lines of text that show up at the top of the ad before the view more, see more section. The job of the headline and the first two lines of text is really to either get them asking themselves a question or to answer the question, what's in this for me? Why should I pay attention? Why should I continue reading? A lot of people think that, a lead magnet is free, so that you're, giving away something for free, but you're not. So the first thing is your potential person who's going to sign up for the lead magnet, the first thing that they're paying with is they're paying with their attention. The second thing they're paying with is their email address. So you have to think, how can you provide real value for them in exchange for what they're paying for you? So in your first two lines of text. Now, sometimes, and you'll see this in the stats, and we'll go on to talk about some of those stats in a second, but sometimes between your image or headline and your first two lines of text, you've done the job, and somebody will click read more, they'll go to the opt-in page, and they will sign up. But then you have your body copy. So the body copy really has to convince people, it has to convince them why they need to go to the landing page. And there are levels here, and again we'll touch on this in a little second. There's levels on which you need to convince people. But you need the body copy to really engage, to sell them on the concept of what you're trying to achieve. Then we look at our metrics, and this is another thing that I think understanding this really helps people identify where their ads are at and how they can best refine them. So the first thing is the CPM. So the CPM is cost per 1,000 impressions, and this is basically what dictates all of your kind of costs from here. So this is what dictates your cost per click, this is what dictates your cost per lead, this is what dictates everything. I was looking at a report the other day, and the average cost CPM on Facebook is somewhere around 11.54. So that's cost per 1,000 impressions, because that's the way that you're paying for it. So in other words, in the auction, how much is it costing you to put ads in, ads in front of 1,000 people? And the average CPM is around 11.54. But there are variances there, all the way from like $2 CPM up to 30, kind of 97, depending on what industry or depending on what the campaign objective is. Now, your cost per million really will be dictated by your ad quality. Facebook has gone very strict. Let's not mention the war, but Facebook has gone very, very strict on the kind of shutting down ad accounts, because if they think there's breaches of their ad guidelines, or their what they specify as their ad rules. However, your account may not be shut down, but if it's not creating a positive experience for the people on Facebook, your ad quality is going to suffer, and as a result, your cost per impression, cost per 1,000 impressions, is going to increase. So Facebook protect their user experience at all other costs. They want to make sure that it's a pleasant place for them. So things like using the word "you" in your ad copy, you can't call people out. Now, if you use too many "yous" in the ad copy, well, your ad won't get published. However, if you use some, the ad will get published, but your ad quality might not necessarily be of standard. Then you've got the next metric that I think is hugely important, is your click-through rate. Now, there's two different click-through rates. So your click-through rate all and click-through rate link. Your click-through rate all is a measure of what percentage of people that viewed the ad have clicked a link. But you have to remember that a link click is also the link to see more in the actual ad body. Whereas your click-through rate link click, which equates to your page views, is probably a more accurate metric that you want to do. And normally, if your click-through rate, you want to see click-through rates anywhere, kind of 3-4% at minimum, with a click-through rate link of probably 2 to 3% just to start out. Like, that's telling you if, this ad has possibility, and then you want to scale it up from there. Your cost per click, and again, why I told you about the click-through rate all and click-through rate link is you can kind of dig into your cost per click and figure out the difference between all and link. But on average there, in 2021, the average for cost per clicks is somewhere around 97 cents. But obviously per campaign objective, that'll run anywhere from 25 cents to $3.30. So recently I was doing a lead generation campaign, and we were getting leads at one stage for as low as 29 cents per lead. Now, what that meant is the opt-in page was converting at over 80, probably somewhere around 85%, but our cost per click was way down at something like 15, 20 cent per cost per CPC. So Then we look at, well, then we start moving down through, you know, our funnel, and we look at conversion optimization. So let's say now we leave the ad platform, because one of the, you know, kind of the one thing that will have the biggest impact on your cost per lead, reducing your cost per lead, and as a result reducing your cost per acquisition, and as a result moving you from paying from leads to getting paid for leads or being cost neutral, is actually your lead magnet opt-in page, and in the mini front end product also your sales page for the product. So you need to look at your opt-in page conversion rate optimization. And you know, this is a pure testing. No, it's fun. You know, when it comes to Facebook ads, nobody, not even the best experts in the world, can tell you, looking at, you know, from blind tests, which ad will perform better. It is a complete testing. You have to try it. And that's one of the beautiful things about Facebook ads. And it's why, you know, I believe that online business owners should really, you know, stick with Facebook ads until they get to a certain ad spend, because you learn so much about your market, so much about your audience, and you will have a more vested interest in figuring this out than maybe a large ad agency who are just, you know, kind of, you're just another number to them. So some things on your opt-in page, you're looking at your headline, you're looking at, you know, and I do believe that your conversion, your landing page should have very specific and, you know, kind of a very small number of component parts. So your headline, that's one of the key ones. You've then got your subhead under your headline, then you've got your body copy. I would say 3 to 7 bullet points max. You've got an image, you've got an opt-in button. For a basic lead magnet, where you're talking about, you know, somebody who's going to get something instantly, where it's a, you know, maybe a PDF or some other element, that's all that you have on the page. So anything else that you put on the page, you're likely to, instead of increase your conversions, you're likely to decrease your conversions. Then I suppose next section we ought to look at, well, what are some tips here for cheaper leads? So if you look at, you know, there's this section of Facebook, which is completely dependent on what's happening over the last probably, you know, kind of 2 to 3 months. And you see these trends that come out on a regular basis. So in the last 2 to 3 months, here's some things that have really worked with Facebook ads. First of all, bigger audiences are outperforming smaller audiences. It used to be that your target audience would be somewhere between 1.5 to 2.5 million people. And I suppose the best practice was, if you had audiences that were bigger than that, you'd split them out and you'd separate them. Now larger audiences are performing much, much better, even up to the 10, 15 million size audiences. Retargeting and lookalike audiences are still outperforming interest-based audiences. Despite what a lot of people are saying, retargeting, and all my tests and anybody else who's, you know, kind of has a proper ad strategy in place, retargeting and lookalike audiences are still outperforming interest-based. You know, yes, iOS is blocking some people who use Apple devices from tracking, you know, kind of visiting landing pages. But overall, that is not impacting. They still have enough data outside of the pure pixel firing to identify who these people are, and to also, you know, kind of not necessarily retarget that person with specific advertising, but they will be able to build a lookalike group. And another big thing here is we need to start getting serious about, you know, implementing the conversions API. So we're using server to server rather than browser, because the server to server gets around all the iOS problems, or well, most of the iOS problems. The second thing that we need to start doing is using our offline conversions a little bit more. So when you use your offline conversions, and now when people purchase a product, you have their email address, you can upload those, and that will reconnect people in Facebook, so that you'll get your better reporting. That being said, reporting in Facebook is a hot mess at the moment. So you do always need to have, like anytime I'm doing a Facebook ad report, I'll always have the report from Facebook, but I'll also have the report from either the e-commerce, from the shop, or the purchase, and then if we're doing opt-in, from the email platform. Another big one that, you know, people make is they start with campaign budget optimization. And I know, you know, it's easy to do, But that's a huge mistake. Always start with your ad set budget optimization, so ABO. ABO is much better in the early phases on lower budgets and for testing. Campaign budget optimization is amazing for scaling, but stick to ABO initially. Another big mistake that people make is after making a change, so changing ad copy, headlines, which you should be doing on a regular basis, always wait kind of 3 to 4 5 days to after a change to assess the results. Like, I see people coming into some of the Facebook groups and they ask, hey, I've just set up an ad yesterday and I'm getting like X cost per lead. Should I shut it down? I should start? No, you don't have enough data. You need to give it time. You need to give Facebook time to figure out who best to send to the opt-in page or wherever they are. Second, I don't know what we're on here. I think we're on about 5. Yeah, we're on number 5. Never kill the golden goose. If you have an ad that's performing, never ever kill it. Never make a change to it. It's one of the most soul destroying things when you have an ad that's performing really well, and for the sake of just duplicating it and putting it into another ad set, you go in, you make some changes, and it falls off a cliff. It happens. Never kill the golden goose. Always make sure if you have an ad that's performing, even if it's not performing exceptionally well, if it is performing on any level, keep that, create a duplicate version of that ad. And if you're getting a better performance in the duplicate, kill the old one. But don't kill it until you have a better option. The other big thing here is watch the 20% budget increase per 72-hour, kind of limit. So you can only increase the budget of an ad by 20% every 72 hours, or you're going to drive it back into learning. Now, sometimes it's worth a risk. Other times, literally, you can just go in, you can... why is this a problem? Well, let's say if you're starting off testing and you're starting off on $20, $30, $40 a day, but you're coming up to something like a launch or you've got a webinar or something happening, there is let's pile a load of budget into this and get a lot more leads. So if you do that, if you go from like $30 a day to $100 a day, you're going to drive the ad back into learning, which is going to increase your cost per lead, and potentially it's going to reset all the learning. Potentially it's not going to perform as well kind of after the changes. So 2 things to think of. Remember that it's not just vertical scrolling that you can, or scaling. You can go horizontal scaling, which means new audiences. Or the second thing, you can duplicate your ad and just put bigger budget in a new one and see what happens. And you can essentially have 2 ad sets competing against each other for the on the same ad. So that's the Facebook ad side of it. Now I'm going to move quickly through the rest of it, because we're familiar with lead magnets. So what could a lead magnet be? Well, it could be an ebook, a guide, maybe bonus packs, resource libraries, checklists, workbooks, case studies, webinars, cheat sheets, templates. There's no end of stuff that you can give as lead magnets. Now, one thing that very often people do, and I think this is a slight bit of a mistake, and I actually said it there, was webinars. Webinars are not the best in terms of lead generation. It can be expensive to get somebody to register for a webinar. It is a big commitment for somebody to give an hour of their time or 45 minutes of their time for a webinar. If you're running, kind of lead generation for webinars, you would want to be making an offer on that webinar. And the offer on that webinar needs to be somewhere in the region of kind of minimum $497, but the sweet spot somewhere around $997. But what are some of the keys to success for your lead magnet? Because this is one of the key components of this. You have to get your lead magnet right. Well, let's see. Your lead magnet addresses one big thing and one big thing only. It speaks to a known, desired end result. It provides immediate gratification, as in it's instantly available. That's another reason why webinars don't always work well as lead generation strategies. So things like webinars or challenges where people have to wait for a period of time. If you're doing that, if somebody has to wait, there has to be kind of some other element of sales coming into it. It's not just lead generation. It has to get your perfect fit client, your lead magnet has to get your perfect fit client a result. And I would say it probably has to get that result within 15 minutes of downloading it. Because it is important, and why I say 15 minutes is sometimes people go too big with their lead magnets, and if the lead magnet is too big, people's attention span will decline, and if after 15 minutes, if they haven't got what they can take away from it, the likelihood is they're not going to take anything away from it. And one of your goals of your lead magnet is to move the relationship forward, and it's to get your perfect fit client to a position where they're ready to take the next step on your value ascension roadmap. So if somebody doesn't get the value from a lead magnet, they're not going to have been moved forward. And that is a problem. So that's why I say you want to keep your lead magnet very, very specific. It speaks to one big thing, a known desired end result, and immediate gratification. Then we're on to our mini front end product. So we've moved through, I'll just bring it back up on screen here. So we've moved through now, we're back a couple of slides. Sorry, that was a bit messy. So we're back a couple of slides. So we've moved through our Facebook ads, we've come to our lead magnet, we're now looking at our mini front end product. So really your mini front end product extends the transformation of the lead magnet. It gets the same transformation faster, or it gets even more of the same transformation, and it provides the next step on the road to, to your perfect fit client's ultimate transformation. It has to be a logical next step. Before you create any content, define the outcome that you want your perfect fit client to achieve. This isn't some, marketing afterthought. You have to define what they will be able to do or how their life will be better once they have completed the mini front end product. And remember, this is the very next step after your lead magnet and before they are ready to ascend to your primary product or membership. Your product is answering the objections they have in their head to taking their next step. People will purchase for enhanced opportunity, so they'll want to gain something first, but after that they're looking for accountability and community as well. Now so it depends on what level you're talking about. Obviously you can't provide accountability and community on this lower level, but that's one of the things that you need to think about as that you move up your value ascension model. But before people buy anything, even a smaller level product, they have to believe. They have to believe in themselves first. They have to believe in you. They have to believe in your process. And they have to believe that the transformation you're offering, that they can achieve it. There's 5 big objections. So 5 big objections are time, money, spouse, family, which is really about approval, fear, shame, and doubt. And shame and self-doubt is one of the biggest hurdles that you have to overcome. And how that shows up in a lot of cases is, well, I've spent money on stuff like this before and I didn't get a result. So you have to answer these objections in your copy, and not just in your copy, but in your product creation. So you have to build these elements into your actual product. And the best way of doing this is you need to think in terms of a courtroom. So you have to produce evidence to back up any claim you make. And if you were standing in front of a judge and jury, it has to be an open and shut case. You have to present an absolutely watertight case as to how you will, get the transformation that you are claiming. Whew. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this module. And you may be saying, well, Michal, that's fine for you because you're helping business owners. Or you might feel that this only works in specific niches. Well, that's not true. I've seen this work in every description of niche and industry, from personal development to DIY to yoga to dog training to professional development. Furthermore, it works for online courses, memberships, subscriptions, virtual events, software products, e-commerce, you name it. This works. Or maybe you're sitting there going, well, that's grand, but I'm never going to be able to get my Facebook ads up and running. And look, all forms of online advertising are tough, but I honestly believe that if you have an online business, you should find the support you need to get your ads up and running yourself. At least until you cross something like $4,500, $5,000 ad spend per month. Anything below that, and outsourcing, it can be tough to make it work financially. Plus, you're going to learn so much about your offer and what it takes your audience to take action that it will stand to your business long run. And I really think this process is truly invaluable for businesses to go through figuring out how to get your Facebook ads to convert. You know, or you may be sitting there thinking, well, this actually all sounds a little bit too simple to be true. And yeah, look at on the surface, this looks very, very simple. But look around in the online world, you know, outside of let's call them the rock stars. How many people do you know that have successfully launched mini front-end products? So we've outlined what all the benefits are and why they're absolutely, truly amazing. So, you know, that's an absolute given. Why aren't more people doing it? Well, you see, the devil is in the detail. And there's so many small little nuances that make a huge difference and ultimately dictate the success or failure of your campaign. So you've two options. You try to figure it out yourself and invest time, effort, and energy in making all the mistakes. Or you can shortcut the process and join your community that will help you skip all the pain and expense. You know, despite all my marketing knowledge and experience, my real expertise is helping people to take action and get shit done. So whether that's bringing people from idea to launch in less than 3 weeks, which I have a proven model for, or helping them establish a strategic lead generation system, you know, or get their Facebook ads up and running, well, that's what I do. And sometimes we all need a little help getting out of our own way. So now that you've seen the model, like, can you imagine what it would be like to wake up to streams of new leads every single morning? Leads who are primed, pumped, and, you know, eagerly waiting for you to give them an opportunity to move to the next stage of their value ascension roadmap. Best of all, you look at your ad account and you notice the revenue from your mini front-end product has once again covered your ad costs. Like 3 months into something like that, could you imagine what that would mean for your next launch? Would your next launch be your breakthrough launch? Would that launch be the one that puts you and your business on the map? What would that mean financially? Like, would you be able to hire a marketing team, maybe some coaches to share the workload, maybe, you know, admin support? Or would you be able to take that dream holiday, pay down your mortgage early? You know, maybe it'd just give you 3 months breathing space in your business. We're all in different places on our journey and have different motivations for why we want to succeed. All I know is get your lead gen flowing and it'll make everything else in your business easier. Because more perfect fit leads equals more sales, and there's no problem in business that can't be solved with more sales. So now that you understand the value ascension roadmap and you have a model that generates infinite leads and, you know, unlimited lead generation budget, next I'm going to share the framework that really unlocks the full marketing potential of your business. It's a framework that you can apply to almost any campaign, promotion, or launch, which will help you understand exactly what you need to do to get people to take action. This is a psychologically based framework that can be applied all the way from blog posts, presentations, webinars, Facebook ads, mini front-end funnels, launches, all the way up to your value ascension model. In fact, it explains why your value ascension model works and will also help you structure and build a business that you love. See you do the work that you love with people you love working with while leveraging your impact and amplifying your message. I'm going to cover all of this in tomorrow's session of the Lead2Launch Workshop. So what have we done today? Well, we've looked at our entire mini front-end Liquidator funnel. We dived into the key Facebook ad strategies you need to adopt, as well as some practical tips from the trenches which will help you launch profitable Facebook ad campaigns. We looked at key success criteria for creating a lead magnet that gets people's results and moves them forward. We also looked at how to develop a mini front-end product that not just sells but also leaves people primed, pumped and excited to jump on your next offer with credit card in hand. Look, I'd love to hear from you. What is the one next step lead magnet that your perfect fit client needs to move forward on their journey? Based on this, what's the next step mini front-end product that would be a no-brainer for them to say yes to? Drop me a comment below. Please make sure to like and share this post if you found it beneficial, and keep an eye out to link to register for my webinar on Friday, where I'll be delving into this series in more details. So I think there should be a post below with a link to register for the webinar. There may also be a post there to register for a one-on-one call as well, if you're interested in taking a look at the Lead2Launch membership. So I really hope you found today useful, and if you have any questions, please do get in touch. I know building an online business can be a long and lonely road. Sometimes all we need is a bit of encouragement and to know we're not battling it out on our own. So whatever you're facing today, you got this. We're here for you. Thank you for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you again real soon. Thanks a million. Talk soon.